is up, everybody? Welcome to a very special edition of Talking Elite Fitness. I'm Sean Woodland, being joined by new dad, Tommy Marquez. How the hell are you, man?
I'm great, man. Honestly, despite the general fatigue and the craziness of the last week, I couldn't be better.
That's great. I haven't talked a whole lot about this with you because I wanted to save it for the show. Mm-hmm. But I'll never forget February 27th, 2020, when my son was born. You were one of the first people I thought about because I couldn't wait for you to experience that moment. So I want to get your thoughts on that here in a second. So we're going to talk all about Tommy's being a dad now, so that's huge. We're going to talk about a couple things headlines-wise that are going on in the space, and then we are going to spend quite a bit of time talking about the Rogue Invitational and what went down with that. So before we do that, we want to thank our main sponsor for today, and that is Box Basics. I mean, if you're looking for the best one-stop shop for all your fitness outfitting needs, Box Basics is the absolute go-to place for you to hit up. I mean, they have everything. They have deals on all the top brands and shoes, clothing, workout accessories. Their customer service is second to none. And to me, that's what really makes it worthwhile for you to go to shop Box Basics, because if there is something wrong with your order, they will make it right, guaranteed. We absolutely love working with Box Basics because they're real people who've been in this space for a long time, and they genuinely care about doing the right things for the right reasons. And they had a really great promotion. We're a little bit past that just because we had to adjust some things now. But if you go to shopboxbasics.com, you can check out all their inventory, and they have some great Black Friday deals coming up. So you're going to want to scope those out early, because on Black Friday, you're going to be able to get a bunch of money off some of your favorite brands. So you just check out shopboxbasics.com. I love these guys. They're, can't say enough good things about it. Yeah, you got the attire on. So please, guys, check them out. We'll be talking probably more about them when we get closer to Black Friday, because a lot of our sponsors, including Shopbox Basics, have some fantastic Black Friday deals to take care of all your holiday shopping needs, not only for others, but also for yourself. Because sometimes around this time of year, nothing wrong with treating yourself.
Exactly. That's how I matched my Nike OG Metcons to my kilt when I was out on the golf range.
Yes, and they have those OG Nike Metcons, which are fantastic. I wear my pair all the time. So shopboxbasics.com. Please check them out. Just really great people doing the right things for the right reasons, and they will absolutely take care of you. All right. Babywatch has ended. Tommy is now officially a dad. So I give the floor to you. How was the whole experience for you, and how is the whole experience right now?
I'll start by saying that, everyone's told me just I can't wait. I can't describe it to you. You just have one of the things you have to feel and see for yourself. Yeah. And the minute, so I'll share some details, nothing too crazy, but I was able to have a part in, catching the baby and delivering it to my wife, Tiff, and handing the baby to her after everything we had just gone through, what she had gone through physically, emotionally, everything like that, handing it to her and seeing the look on her face and hearing our baby boy cry for the first time, his lungs kick in, the speed with which everything happens. And then suddenly it's there's this state of bliss that just hits you, and an equally heavy emotional, physical energy dump. And you're just oh my gosh, what just happened? And in an instant, right? I guess this threshold is crossed that you go from, being about yourself and your partner to this baby. That's what it's about. And, obviously Tiff too, but everything just becomes hyper focused in that moment. And the experience leading up to it, my poor wife, she was pregnant for an extra 13 days, so our baby boy came 13 days past due. Marston Sawyers goes, that boy's a Marquez. He showed up late. But yeah, and Tiff was a warrior, and handling the whole process, the labor process, and getting our baby boy out into the world and everything since, it's your entire schedule gets flipped and you're figuring out this whole new process and there's no manual for it. And you're like, what the hell? I think we caught ourselves saying that more times in the 3 days we were at the hospital than like in my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't matter, right? Because there's those, like I said, those moments of bliss that just made it all just perfect. So it was crazy. The hospital was fantastic to us. The doctor was great. Like they made every effort to accommodate us, and we had some great support from our family. My in-laws, my parents, my cousin who's a midwife who was supporting us the entire time. It was, I can't say enough crazy, good things, wild things. It's just a trip. It's a trip to suddenly hear someone call it, like even the nurse coming in and being like, "Okay, Dad," and you're like,
"Yeah,
oh crap, crap." Today I was, it was my shift for, with our baby Miles, and I'm like, Tiff's like running around doing errands and stuff like that, and getting stuff done. And I made what I would consider a dad quip, not a joke.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily like a targeted joke, but like a quip that's like geared in. And she looked at me like, "Oh God, what have I done?"
It's like that scene in Mortal Kombat. It has begun.
It's like you finally go back to the back closet and get to pull out the battle axe, and you're like, "I've been waiting for this."
Yep.
It was fun.
Before we go any further, I just want to mention Lauren Khalil not joining us today because she is covering the national tactical games competition going on.
Mm-hmm.
So she's busy, as she always is, bringing people to news. But there are very few experiences in life, and we'll move on here. But you mentioned his name is Miles. Miles Marquez is a great name, by the way. I mean, that's just, I heard that, I'm like, that is like that's the most superhero name because they all have those. The alliteration. Yeah. It's even in Ready Player One, Wade Watts. He's like, yeah, my dad named me Wade Watts because he was a big fan of superheroes and I thought that sounded like a superhero name. So I love that. I think that's fantastic. But there are very few moments in life that you have where and I can remember mine, and having, becoming a dad is one of them, is that today is the first day of the rest of my life where, it's just done. Now we're moving, this is a completely and totally different chapter and I will be a totally changed human being from now
100%.
on. So I'm glad everybody's doing well. I can't wait to meet the guy. I am curious, and I will do my part to help you fight this fight. I know you live in a split household as far as fandom is concerned for your favorite NFL team.
Yes.
Who gets jurisdiction over that right now?
I would lean on. I think it will base on the sport, right?
Okay.
I think I get jurisdiction in basketball and football.
Okay, that's all that matters.
I think my wife will definitely take baseball.
Okay.
But I want to be as like open as possible, but there's just some things that are
not negotiable.
And what I was hoping, and I think I was joking with you and Chase the other day, I was hoping that I saw the writing on the wall. Cowboys were going to get pounded by the Eagles, and I was hoping that they would just fire Jerry Jones, or so they would remove Jerry Jones, would recuse himself as GM, and they would fire Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy, great dude. I got to ask questions at the combine. Awesome guy. Seems like a great hang. But it's not working.
I think it's time.
And I didn't want my son to live a day where Jerry Jones was the GM and Mike McCarthy was the head coach.
He is the harbinger of a new era.
Exactly.
Oh man, that's good stuff. Well, just know this: the Woodland family is going to do their very best to make sure that the allegiance to your team stays. That's all. Don't want to ruin anything else, but like that's going to happen. We're going to do our part to do that. So anyway, congratulations. I'm sure we'll talk a lot more about it. I can't wait to meet him, like I said. And so, one last question. How are your parents doing? I bet they're over the moon.
Oh, they're so excited. So excited. I mean, it's the first grandkid on either side. Mm-hmm. So both parents, I think we're just like chomping at the bit to like just get to be a part, get to be a part of it and share in those moments. And so,
dude, you know what's so cool is you get to have like he's born and now you get to have Christmas with him. He won't know what's going on, but that's still fun. So
the first one is I'm actually kind of like looking forward to it because like I could put him in any outfit that I want for and like go to JCPenney and get some fun catalog photos.
Definitely do that. Oh man, I'm so stoked for you. That's awesome. Okay, let's get to news that's going on other than Tommy becoming a dad, which is obviously major headlines in this space.
Yep.
First thing is CrossFit athletes continue to cross over into the world of Hyrox. Tia Claire Toomey is throwing her hat into that ring. Is it James Newberry? And then Con Porter's pairing up with somebody as well.
Yeah, he had a funny quip online about it.
I saw that.
Can only do.
Okay, have fun.
Because they're coming for it, and Jay Crouch and Maddie Sturt are going to be at the same one.
Yeah.
So from a CrossFit standpoint, that mixed doubles event is going to be sick.
Yeah.
Tia. What is Tia bad at? Is really. But I think James in general, his training has maybe leaned more towards that style. He's gotten away from some of the heavier weights. I think some of the more like plyometric, some of the running stuff has always suited him very well to begin with. And so that pairing, I think they're going to crack some skulls for sure. And then Jay and Maddie are both insanely fit and really well rounded. I'm just excited to see how that all plays out because. I like we talked about this a while ago when Christy Ermo decided to go out. It was like if she goes out and has some success, then it could be like a little bit of the turning of the ship and opening the door for other CrossFit athletes to be like, Jason Khalipa has been posting some stuff about training for one and doing a Hyrox event. Mal O'Brien's done one. Emma Lawson, Jack Farlow have done them. The list of like CrossFit Games athletes is growing rapidly at who's doing them. It's I honestly, even if they're not trying to just win, because let's be honest, like the Hyrox athletes that are dedicated to the sport are very good and deserve credit for that. But it will be good training for the CrossFit athletes where this isn't their primary sport. It'll be really good, longer time domain training for them.
Yeah.
Even if they you go out there, I'm going to compete hard, but in the back of my mind, I know it was a day well spent as far as training is concerned. So that sounds correct without just like immediately dismissing the competition itself. But.
Yeah, and I think it's great that CrossFit athletes are dabbling in this, regularly learn and play new sports. Now this is not really new, but it is. Same thing you've been doing in a different structure. What I'll be really interested to see if Hyrox continues to grow the way it has, and CrossFit, the sports side of things, continues to sort of live in limbo. How many CrossFit athletes who, again, you got to be a really good runner to excel at that. Like that's a must. And there are some CrossFit athletes who fit that bill. How many might go over to that full time and say, hey, I don't know. I don't think we're there yet. But that's what would really interest me is that, is the success that Chrissy Emerald O'Connell had. Someone like that, I could see, why not give some more of those a try? But I love what Hyrox is doing. I think it's their whole model of just going city to city and holding these repeatable events that are mass participation is awesome. And it's getting people in the gyms, it's getting people training. John Woolley is doing one this weekend, I think, in Chicago.
Yeah, a bunch of them. I think Paige Powers is going to be at the one in Chicago with Dalton, her husband, baby daddy, whatever. So, you're just starting to see people turn up at these things because, again, there's and a credit to them. They've also built a really good community environment, a community competitive environment. And I think it's one of those things where this for Hyrox can also be the effectively not replace, but be a more training focused, effort focused, like Spartan race style event, right? Like the Spartan race is like unless you're in the pro, it's not as well regulated. The community run is just kind of like, hey, let's go out there and do it. And I think if people want just a little bit more from that without having to be like, I got to practice my like spear toss into a bale of hay, like I think this could be it for a lot of people. And I think you're going to see a lot of people signing up for this like it's a weekend CrossFit competition, like a local throwdown or a Spartan race where you're going to spend that money anyways.
Yeah.
So I want to do the one in Vegas. I really want to do that. I think it'd
be awesome. One. I mean, I would suck at it because I suck at running, but I think you do really well. But and I love the doubles. A lot of things too. I like. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think you would excel at the Hyrox. I bet Miles one day will excel at the Hyrox as well. So have you thought, I got to get back to Miles for a second. Have you thought about, because I did this with my kid, I'm like, I hope he gets my wife's X, Y, and Z and my this, like to build 100%. Sort of like the perfect athlete. I like, if he gets my wife's engine and her just toughness, and all I want is just get my ability to push things. Everything else needs to come from her and we're good to go.
Yep. We definitely talked about this, down to like the features, right? Tiff's like, I want him to have your skin, my hair and eyes, like your length, my power, Tiff's power, like output, or like her hand-eye coordination and like rotational strength. And she's like, and your running ability. And we're like, we're not paying for college.
Yep.
No way. if he gets a fraction of that.
Yeah.
And a lot of that would be due to the contributions of my wife's genes to the pool, because she was obviously a very high level softball player. So
her teammates, by the way, at your wedding were awesome. They were super nice.
They are hilarious.
Yeah, they're good people. Okay, next thing we want to talk about. Sorry, I got off on a tangent there because I just thought about attributes that would be good for Hyrox. Next thing, PFAA, they have released their prospective board of directors. So people that eligible members of the PFAA who have a vote, they were sent a digital ballot to where they could just vote yes or no on everybody who's thrown his or her hat into the ring. It's not like you can, here's 7 candidates, you can only pick 4. There were 6 names on the list, and they just have to vote yes or no as to whether they want them on that list. The names are Christina Lividatakis for Africa and Oceania, Danielle Brandon for North America, Jake Douglas from Oceania, Yella Hosta from Europe, Patrick Vellner from North America, and Victoria Campos from South America. And now that we have, Brent Fikowski, who is the president, I'm guessing, because now he's stepped away from competition to focus on this. I mean, that's a good group. Like, I feel that's a really good group of people.
No doubt. I mean, as we were chatting before this, you have representation from across the globe. Athletes at various levels of expertise and experience in terms of times in this sport when they came into the sport. And I think it's reassuring that you have new athletes from all the regions throwing in. You kind of cross-reference it with the other athletes, like Victoria Campos was already a part of the board. Pat Vellner already a part of the board. But then you have some other athletes like Jake Douglas jumping in, Christina Lividatakis, like you mentioned, jumping in, that are attempting to, Yella Hosta too, which is like a newer athlete that has come in a very big way, that really want to help drive change. And I think that's great. I think you have anchors to some of the older ways, but not blind adherence to it. You have athletes that are very future oriented, athletes that are, starting to transition on their way out, athletes, not necessarily athletes that have been at the games every year. And you have that blend of people that compete at a very high level. And I'd have to learn a little bit more about the process in terms of athletes that want, because, before they had 9 athletes on the board.
Keep going.
So their previous board members, Brent Fikowski, who was the president. You had Annie Thorsdottir, Dinah Swift, Luca, Laverne Engelbrecht, Fisgapi, Victoria Campos, Royce Dunn, and Pat Vellner. They also have their advisory council, which I think has been great, with Max El-Haj from Training Think Tank, Carolyn Lambre, John Singleton, Kotler, and Hicks on the medical side, which is it's been great too.
There's a lot of smart people on there, man. Like people who are really good at what they do
and really committed and have really, it sounds weird to say, just like they have really intriguing thoughts. They're unafraid to speak their mind, but they're also very inquisitive and self-reflective in a way that I think brings interesting ideas to the table. Yeah, I'd have to talk with them with like Pat and Brent and some of the members over there. If 6 athletes is what they're just trying to focus on, like maybe 9 was too big, or if there are some athletes carrying over, because I would like to see, and maybe this is just me creating some arbitrary standard to hold up to, I would like to see a bigger pool of athletes attempting to be board members.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
No, I agree.
But since this isn't like you can only vote for 3, I think that may be the difference where I'm kind of missing the vote on that. But yeah, so.
Yeah, so there's a thing on their Instagram, and I have it up now, how their board members are elected, and eligible voting members are identified. Nice little slideshow here. Eligible voting members are invited. Voting members accept invitation in writing. Voting members elect the board of directors, athlete board. An athlete board makes decisions to advance the PFAA's mission and goals. Athlete board selects executive committee to run day-to-day operations. All right. And the executive committee executes and facilitates communication back to voting members. All right. So that, it's pretty straightforward. And look, they're it's an interesting time. They're going to certainly have their work cut out for them because, as we talked about, I don't know if it was last show, we talked about the World Fitness Project. Is that what it's called? That looks like it's going to be at least kind of, I don't know if they're going to be a competitor to CrossFit, but might offer a option for competition. I'll be shocked if the PFAA does not have something in the works. So there's just a lot going on, and that, those 6 athletes that we named, I've had interactions, I think, with most of them, more some than others. Danielle Brandon surprised me a little bit that she was on there. She just, not that she's not capable of this or anything, but I just didn't see her as that type.
Oh, it's like the
yeah, like wanted to be, I mean, I think it's great. Don't get me wrong. I love it, but I was just kind of surprised that, again, I just didn't think that would be something that she would want to, that she had an interest in, but I'm really glad she does. I think she's a great addition to it.
Which is great. Yeah. Unafraid to tell it like it is. And, and it's, I mean, just, watching from her as an athlete, I feel like this is kind of a cool growth point of her wanting to get like, knee deep in some administrative stuff as far as behind the scenes for the sport as well, which is cool.
Yeah. Okay. So that's, those are just a couple of headlines we wanted to talk about because we want to spend the majority of the show talking about Rogue. So before we do that, we want to thank our other sponsor today, and that is Thirdzy, the best rest and recovery collagen on the market. So I had a 9.5 hour plane ride over to Scotland, or probably just to England. Then I had to fly to Scotland. I left at 8:40 p.m. Pacific time Tuesday night, and I was like, I got to try and sleep. Took some Thirdzy. Tommy, I PR'd my sleep on the plane. I got nearly 4 hours of sleep on the plane. I've never slept that much on a plane. That is proof positive that Thirdzy works. It has great ingredients in it, no melatonin, so it's not habit forming. It has GABA, L-theanine, magnesium that are designed to help calm your central nervous system so you can sleep deeper, longer, and get to sleep faster. And like I said, had it before. I cannot sleep on planes. I am terrible at it. And I got, according to my sleep tracker, like almost 4 hours of sleep, to enough to where I could function when I landed and got on the connecting flight to Aberdeen from Heathrow and showed up at like 6 p.m. Wednesday night. So I was all kinds of jacked up, but I got enough sleep. Check out Thirdzy. Go to thirdzy.com/TEF and your discount will automatically be applied. So they've changed it up a little bit. We had a couple people hit us up that said, hey, your code's not working. Just go to thirdzy.com/TEF. Bam. 20% automatically is going to be applied to your order. So you're going to want to.
I had almost an opposite, but also effective experience at the hospital because I brought some of the travel packs with me.
Mm-hmm.
And the very first night that we had Miles, wasn't much sleep.
Nope.
If I'm going to be honest, and a lot of like, what the heck's going on? It just so worked out where he had one of his best eating sessions, and Tiff, he fell asleep in his bassinet. Tiff fell asleep, and I was like, I think this is my window to get some sort of sleep. But I was like, just from the day, I was like, I had this like hum and like vibration to me, like my certain nervous system was cranked up like a Spinal Tap guitar amp, and
211,
and it was like, I was like, I have to do something for this, and so don't try this at home. Probably better ways to do this. Just ripped a corner off and just dry scooped some direct. Grabbed one of the cups of ice water that they're giving us. From time to time, I just grabbed it, slammed it, and just hit the pillow. I slept for like 2.5 hours.
Perfect.
And he it was like the longest session that Miles slept. And even though I didn't get the full night, I popped up and I was like, let's go again.
Yep. That's awesome. thirdg.com/TEF. They're great people too. Doing the right things for the right reasons. So, okay, let's talk about what we wanted to spend the majority of the show about, and is the Rogue Invitational. And I had obviously a firsthand look at it. I had a different perspective being behind the scenes and seeing things from my perch and calling the action and watching all of it. And I have been trying to give it some time before I really make my mind up as to the way I really think I felt about it. Because, when you're part of it, something like that, or any kind of competition, you walk away and you're like, oh man, that was awesome. That was really cool. And then there's some recency bias there, and then that fades. But I can honestly say that was probably the best competition I think I've ever been a part of from top to bottom. And again, I had a little bit of a unique perspective on it. So I wasn't out there I talked to some fans. They all seemed to be having a great time. I got to experience a little bit of it as a fan. My brother and his wife flew over from Seattle. They've always wanted to travel to Scotland, and so they thought this was a great opportunity. And we went to the Legends Happy Hour, and we did the behind the scenes tour, which was a lot of fun. It was cool. They took people around, and they had some of the legends there telling stories and stuff. And Dan Bailey was there, Matt Chan, Tanya Wagner, Kristen Clever, Sam Briggs. That's awesome. I think Margot Alvarez was part of it. Tommy Hackenbrook. And they're just, it was really well done. They took people to the warm up area, and the athletes were, swapping stories and stuff. And I was trying to get Matt Chan to tell one that he was reluctant to tell.
Did it involve regionals?
About being in the athlete corral. Yeah. They talked about what it was like to be in the athlete corral. And Matt Chan was like 5 feet in front of me. And I go up to him and I just lean in his ear. I said, hey man, why don't you tell the one about the blah, 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 blah. He goes, no way.
Hearing Marston tell that story is fantastic.
Yes.
That's just the way he tells it. But
I know people are like, well, what is it? I don't feel like I'm at liberty to tell. I feel like Matt Chan needs to tell it.
Has to come from his
mouth. It has to come from him. But anyway, and then the only complaint I heard, and this isn't a complaint, but the only thing that fans said is like, oh, I just wish there were more options to eat around here. But I'm curious.
That's all of the UK for you.
Right. So but what was your perspective? Because I know people at home watching have a much different perspective. You have to sit through breaks. You have to all that stuff. Because it was just constant for me. It just did not stop. So I think that was the part of it.
And I'm just kidding, UK. I've had some great food there. I went to Nando's.
Yeah, I had a toad in a hole.
Ooh.
That was really good.
Is that like an egg in a hole?
No, it's like they had this baked pastry bowl, and they put a bunch of mashed potatoes on it and some really good sausage on top. I was like,
that's awesome.
I'll eat that all day long.
Absolutely. I'm glad to hear that on your end it was, because I think I talked about it. I talked about it on our Q&A with our patrons, and I talked about it with a few other people that sometimes you can feel the energy by the spectators' experience at home radiating off of what the broadcast is looking like, and you can tell the energy from the broadcast. And maybe that's from our experience, knowing what goes on behind the scenes and how that sometimes presents in the product that ends up being on air. But it felt like things were clicking, and it felt like there was good energy, and that the overall atmosphere of the event was really, really good. Like to quote the kids these days, vibes were high.
Yeah.
And it's funny because little things are like, clues to that. The lane markers.
Oh, the lane assignment graphics?
Like the kind of like 3D lane markers that went up.
Dude, they popped those up. I was like, oh my God, that's awesome. And then I said, can we make that like the first down line so they can actually walk on top of it? And they're like, can't do that yet. I went, okay. Next
soon. That's like, it feels like, the like you said, the first down line and Monday Night Football, or when they do the big swooping shot from the spider cam and they have the 3D like full page graphic that's like sitting out on the field and casting a shadow, that kind of stuff that just adds a little bit of the magic stuff to the broadcast. And the atmosphere from the crowd was great. It was palpable through the screen, and the lighting was fantastic. They made it feel like this spectacular spotlight style event, super bright, easy to see despite like very dark colors, obviously. And, not getting too into the weeds, but like the crowd falls off at just the right spot. So it doesn't feel like you're just, I don't know. When there's like separation from the crowd on the floor, it highlights what's going on the floor really well. And I liked it a lot. And the times I kind of switched back and forth to, Pat at the desk, seeing some of the guests that he had on, and then just kind of playing with like the control over your viewer.
Oh, how was that? I didn't know you did that.
Yeah, it was great. It was, I will say that for me, watching some of it on delay at times, because we thought we were going to the hospital. We weren't sure if we were going to go to the hospital. There's a couple times where like we kind of went through our little like checklist, like, are we going to go soon? All right, let's make sure everything's good. And I couldn't watch the event at that hour. And then I went back and watched it. It made it really easy for me to dive in and pinpoint what I wanted and get what I wanted out of it. And, be able to digest information very quickly, which was good.
Yeah. I thought I didn't get to see it, but back in the media area, kind of the production area, they had the VR headsets on. I think that was pretty cool. Someone said, I think one of the members of our crew, it was Chad, who was our director for Strongman. He was checking out the CrossFit. He's like, I was sitting right there, and Brent Fikowski just like came right up to me he goes, it was awesome. So they let him sample that. Yeah. But the crowd was fantastic. I love the mixture of the Strongman and the CrossFit competitions. The interest in that, they were both the same. Like the crowd was up for all of it. And as we have said in the past at Del Diamond, it seemed like oftentimes Strongman was kind of the second, was sort of like the sub card, the undercard, if you will. And that was not the case here. Like they were up for, this when Tom Stolman came out, they were going nuts, and they, Hathor. There were some really great moments in that. And I love the crossover between the two, how they let the power stairs out there for the duel. They use some of the same implements. It's obviously not as heavy.
Yeah. Yep.
And I love the pacing of it. It really convinced me that, and we've talked about this before, and there's a caveat to this. And you've said if you're going to do this, you have got to have a very robust qualification process. But I feel like 20 athletes is the right amount, because 2 heats, they were all really exciting. There was no slow build up. It was right off the bat, we're in this. Right off the bat, we're in. And the times there wasn't a huge disparity between, the winning time. And I mean, there was a couple times, but it just felt like it just moved really quickly. There was always a really good level of excitement. Man, I think it's a reminder of what the sport can be when someone brings all the resources and all the right guns to bear. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately now that's not, that's becoming fewer and farther between. Yeah. But it is a reminder that there is something here. And I also think there is something to be said for the marriage between Strongman and CrossFit. Like that just it keeps it interesting.
Integrating other sports.
Yeah.
Like other somewhat adjacent sports, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, and something they did on site too, and I got to give a shout out to Lauren Smith. So she was the in-arena host. So if you've been to plenty of sporting events where they have that crew that when they're on a TV timeout or something, that they're hey, we're here with such and such from, Sheboygan, and he's a wallpaper enthusiast, and we're going to give him a quiz. Can you guess the three? And they do that whole thing and whatever it is. And they
can't think of a more like ho-hum guy to introduce to a crowd of drunk football fans in a.
Yeah. He's a pipe fitter from Des Moines. Yeah, let's welcome. And they do all the games, and she was dealing with the hyping people up, dealing with people in the crowd. They had people out doing burpee competitions. They had like a drinking competition. They did the Simba Cam with kids that Pat Vellner's kid got on. They did like all this stuff that made it feel like it's cheesy and fun, but it made it feel like a big time event. Like that's what you experience when you go to a NBA game or an NHL game or NFL. Like they have all that stuff going on to keep you entertained. Like it was just a neat little thing that they added that only the people on site saw. And Lauren did a hell of a job. Like that is a hard job to do. So I just got to give her props because she knocked it out of the park.
You're like the fourth or fifth person that I've seen say that.
Yeah.
Like you've told me that people on just like reading on IG or Reddit and stuff like that. I've seen people comment that like the energy in between was really well managed. That's funny. They do the Simba Cam.
They did the Simba Cam. They did Kiss Cam. They did air guitar cam. They did dance cam. Like all this stuff. Like it was just a lot of fun, and it kept you entertained. We had a marriage proposal that happened.
Whoa.
Yeah. So it was
awesome.
It was really cool. But the venue was perfect. It is perfect as far as like what you were looking for a CrossFit event. It wasn't too big. It was modern. The seats were super nice. You went outside that arena. It felt like a convention center. They had Vendor Village all encapsulated in one like big exhibition hall. They had an area for the volunteers. There was a coffee shop. There was, places to walk around. Like the weather was not going to be a factor. They had bagpipers walking around the whole time playing. Like people would walk in the morning and the bagpipers were outside playing Scotland the Brave and other songs. They were at the Rogue tent playing in front of that, that wall of plates that they have, the red and blue. Mm-hmm. It was everything was just top to bottom. I have no notes. Like this is what it should be. Like this is exactly what it should be. And I would love to see a world where we can get to the point in the game season where we can have enough of a qualifying process and enough like live competition to where we can get, maybe 20 athletes and 10 teams on the floor at the games, and it moves and it's always exciting. And there's,
Oof. I don't know if to me, I don't know if I feel like that's appropriate for the games. I think it's perfect for Rogue because of what they do from the athlete experience, like from the check-in and everything like that, and every year being a little bit different, and Rogue like throwing really cool resources at it, that it makes it like this very exclusive, elite, distilled experience that like getting to compete at Rogue, especially from a qualifying standpoint, like if you're not one of the invitees, like it's something to hang your hat on. It's like one of the career experiences, right? Like getting to have the check-in with the kilt or the guitar or the hat and boots and those kind of things are like the mission, like you get the mission accomplished or like life goal unlocked kind of posts on IG. It's funny because going into it, after it was announced, the only thing I would have said was a little bit of a drag, and I think this is different from watching at home versus being in person the last couple of years. Is the pacing of the duel is always a little tough.
Yeah,
because it's so fast, and then there's so much dead time as they calculate scores to get it right. But as a fan at home, given the circumstances of what I'm in, it was awesome to be like, go, 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 go. Okay, I get a break. Go knock out some things real quick. Come right back. And I, left the volume up, and I knew as soon as I heard you come in booming, I was like, all right, let's get back. Like let's roll. And so the pacing actually worked for the off-site fan experience, I think, a little bit better.
Yeah.
If you wanted to, mix in some laundry or switching things over to the dryer on a Saturday.
Yeah, and I think Chase has made this suggestion is that you run, and you could probably do it. You run men, and then you bring the women out and you run women, and then bring men back out and run men, and just kind of keep it rolling like that. So that's possibly an idea, but that's like, I thought the event itself was cool, and we'll talk about like the actual competition here, and who impressed and who are the biggest winners and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's always the kind of the case of that, because there's like the timing is so you got to be precise, because the cut line.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there was one point they cut, it was like 1 second separated 10 people. It was like the top 10 were all separated by like a second.
Yeah. Yeah. And which is fun, and we don't really get that format anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So I knowing that how Rogue is going to do it with the unique implements that they brought in each year, whether it was like, what is it, like that like wheelbarrow load where it had to like tip over,
Mm-hmm.
you had to like load one side until it tipped, and all those other new fun things. I think it's like, okay, this is something that they do, and obviously this is the dual 4
Mm-hmm.
that they do. So you're like, okay, I can gear up for it. I think if a lot of people tried to copy it, it would get kind of stale.
Yeah.
But
no, it's cool. Like, it's their thing. But let's talk about the competition, because we'll start on the women's side, where we got the showdown that we wanted with Tia and Laura. And if that were just between the two of them, and that was a best of 9 series, that drama, Tia wins 4, Laura comes roaring back, ties it at 4. We go into the 9th and deciding event. That was awesome. And you always had that. This always happens. Tia goes out and does what she does and wins the first 4 events. She's the only woman who's swept the entire first day. And after event 4, you're like, well, is she going to win every one? Well, then here comes Laura. Laura goes first, wins the next 4. And I mean, they were separate. They were far and away. I mean, Laura Horvath was, and we'll talk about Gabby in a second. Now, had she been there, it would have been closer, but she wound up being 220 points ahead of third place.
Yeah.
This was a 2-person battle, and I loved watching it. Like this, it was amazing.
It's what we were all excited for at the games this year, because for the first time, really, since Tia's reign began, she didn't have the crown. There was friction, there was adversity in that. Like, I need to reclimb back up to the mountaintop. There were just very little doubts about whether or not she could do it, but seeing what Laura has done in recent years, battling back from tough finishes in 2019 and 2020 to start rattling off podium finishes again, and then obviously win in Tia's absence, was like, all right, like here's some actual competition that we get to see. And it's unfortunate what happened to Gabby, both Gabby and Heinrich. Obviously, just an absolute shame, because that's not an easy or quick injury to come back from. So it's not. I'd have to obviously hear more about the severity of it, but it's like it casts their 2025 season, whatever the season is, in doubt. But I used this analogy with our patrons on Q&A. It felt like the first Rocky movie.
Yeah, it did.
Like Apollo comes out and it's just, everyone's like, is this going to be a fight? Is this just going to be Tia being Tia? Is Apollo Creed just going to go around and dancing? And then, obviously, like, Tia lands all these shots and you're like, oh, well, this is going to be over quick. And here's Rocky getting off the mat, and throwing some vicious body shots. And that was Laura, like, punching back and landing some haymakers. And what was it? Event 6, 7, the one where, like, the duel. So it was event 6, where Tia actually, like, didn't make the finals. So you knew that Laura was, like, picking up like 6 to 7 spots on her, no matter what.
Yep. And
you're like, oh, maybe. Granted, I think Laura still finished 60 points back after that last event. But it was like, going into that, like, maybe if Tia has another slip up like this is a conversation at least. And even just having that little, like, spark for a second is more than we have had in 6 years.
Yeah.
Right. And even with that, a lot of people say, like, well, if Gabby hadn't gotten hurt, there's no guarantee Laura would have even been second. When Gabby got hurt, Laura, I think Laura was going to catch her.
I do too. And I love the attitude that Laura was showing to this. No, I'm going to go out and do this. I loved it. I thought it was like, it was just great. Like you said, it just added to that spark that we haven't had in a while whenever Tia's in the field. Like, there was some like, oh man, this is getting kind of interesting,
Yep. 100%. When Gabby got hurt, Laura was going into that event. Laura's only 20 points back. and you're going to tell me over the next 3 events that she wins, she's not going to make up 20 points.
Yeah.
Like I think it would have played out that way in Laura's favor ultimately. But obviously Laura and Tia were the only 2 women that won events the entire weekend. Between them, they won all 9 events. But I think the gap, the fact that the 3rd place finisher Ariel alone, who deserves a ton of credit,
yes,
another podium finish at a major event, and games, doing great at Wadapalooza, podium at Rogue is just another just awesome finish. I know so many people are pumped for her because of just who she is as a person and an athlete, and as a family with her and Dylan and their daughter. She had 3 finishes outside of the top 10. She had an average finish of, I think it was 8th across the board. 8th out of a field of 20 as your average finish to get you on the podium is pretty highly indicative of a topsy-turvy event overall.
Yeah.
Now, granted, bad events happen at Rogue. It's not uncommon for everyone to have that one event that's like, oof. Mm-hmm. Even Fikowski had that 18th despite finishing second, which we can talk about in a sec. But it also just highlighted that how good Laura and Tia were, especially because Rogue is unique in the implements. It's high power output. And for athletes usually coming in where they're like, oh, I haven't done this for a little bit, or I haven't been training this because I've been taking some time off the season a little bit. It's impressive that they were able to dial it up to that extent the entire time.
Yeah. And I think that, a couple of just people who I think deserve a shout out who stood out to me. Manon Enganese finished 9th, and I shouldn't be surprised because she usually does well this competition, but she seemed to be hanging around the front of a lot of heats, and she put up three straight finishes of 9th or better. Then she had a 15th, and 3 straight inside the top 9, and then she had a 13th, and then 2 inside of 7th or better, and then she had a couple bad finish. Her worst finish came in event 8, and then she had another 14th place finish outside the top 10. But I was impressed with her. Emma Tall looked really good.
6th.
Alex Gazan, was in a podium spot all the way until the final event. So yeah, there was a lot of women who, really I think stood out, and it was just kind of so fun to watch.
100%, super super impressive from them, and Alex, I'm not surprised by. She's been in this podium. What is it? The podium orbit for multiple competitions in a row now, and is only getting better and is young and is only going to continue to improve. I think Brooke being just another top 5 finish at a major event, having multiple at the games, and she gets a lot of flack because she is such a big personality, one of the most followed athletes, and she has this massive following, and people like to poo-poo the fact that she hasn't had a podium yet, whatever. She just continues to notch strong finishes in big fields at big events. So a huge credit to her. Spiegel, I thought, did great in 7th. Really this is what is really good for her. At Rogue, she's going to have a couple of really, really good finishes where maybe only Laura, Tia, and one other person might get in front of her. And then she's going to have her bad finishes, but she's really able to capitalize on the good finishes here to have a successful Rogue finishing 7th. So Emma Tall, obviously great too. I know that talking with her at Wadapalooza SoCal, she's excited for the event and everything like that, but wasn't quite feeling at her peak, but still another tremendous performance. And she was I believe she was the highest qualifier. We had that conversation before.
I think you're right about that. Yeah, that was, we did. And we'll talk about another one that I think Lauren got right on the men's side. And I'll start with what the Jason Hopper, Dallin Pepper, Ricky Garrard thing that was going on there for that final spot on the podium was so fun to watch. And I give Jason Hopper a ton of credit because he knew event 4 was not going to be good for him. I think that was Gondola. I think that was the pegboard one. And he finished 19th. Okay. That second to last in that event. How did he respond? He comes out, he wins he goes top 6 the next 5 events. He wins 2 of them and he finishes 3rd in another one. To be able to have the mental fortitude to bounce back from that, because I know everyone says, I take it event by event, but if you finish second to last Like that's got to have an effect. And the fact that he was able to bounce back from that. And then I love the finish of that final event where he just like threw off his belt and was like, was awesome. So super happy for Jason to finish on the podium. It comes at the expense of people that I also wanted. Like I wanted 9 people to finish on the podium, which is impossible. But I loved watching that. Like I thought the men's side was just much closer because, you don't have a Fraser or a Tia in there, but man, Jeff Adler, that's the Jeff Adler that I thought we would see at the games had he competed. Just super consistent, only won one event, nothing outside the top 9, but man, he looks good.
Yeah, only male athlete to have all of the finishes in single digits. Only him and Tia were the only 2 athletes that kept everything in single digits, and they both walk away as victors. I'm just that 118th place finish in event 3 for Brent.
Yeah,
was like, I mean, credit to him. He also bounced back, and was 35 points. So it's about seven placings on the leaderboard. So if he even just finishes 11th, they're even on points there. It's just you're like, I wanted that for him as well. But seeing Jeff kind of pick back up where we expected him to, like one thing you mentioned about Hopper, a ton of credit for him. A couple years ago, that would have derailed him. And he'd be the first to tell you that, like, I would have had that bad finish and I would have gotten in my head and I would have come undone with the expectations that I have for myself. And he's worked on that, allowing himself to feel that and then also move past it. In golf, they have, the 90-second rule or 1 minute rule or whatever, where if you hit a bad shot, you give yourself a minute to like get pissed at yourself. And when that minute is done, it's gone.
But that's hard to do, man. That's hard to do, especially when you're that competitive. It takes
a lot of mental discipline for sure. Mental and emotional discipline to do that. But that's like to walk off with a win
awesome.
To get your podium finish. Sick. What more could you ask for?
That was really cool. Also, Justin Medeiros finishes 8th, but that was, so people know, like, we have a lot of fail safes in place and people like watching to keep us on track as far as who's winning a heat and all that stuff. And all those fail safes failed. Like everyone missed Justin Medeiros being part of that battle. We were so focused on Fikowski and Crouch because at the time, like that, that had bearing on the podium. Like this is big here. Brent's on a roll, and I didn't even no one, not a producer, not a spotter, not anybody on the floor, realized that Justin Medeiros is creeping up. I actually talked to Justin afterwards, and I came up to him, I said, "Listen, man, I am so sorry. We absolutely whiffed on that." He goes, "No, it's all good, man." He goes, "It's actually helped me out a lot because I was like, they're not saying my name, and I know I'm really close to these guys, and okay, wait a minute, I'm like right there. Why aren't they talking about me?" And it allowed him to sneak over the finish. And I was genuinely shocked. I was like, "Wait a minute, did this guy finish?" I had that moment at the Masters games with Sean Ramirez, and I had we absolutely whiffed it. I'm sorry about that, but I thought it was just even that was just a cool moment. Even when it went wrong, it was fun, but. I'm Brent Fikowski to me is so compelling because I feel like this is the best version of him that we have seen in his career, and he's calling it quits.
Yep. It's tough because you see that 1-2 punch finish that he had in the duel and then the pegboard where it's like, when he's on, he can just, he is as good as anyone in the sport when he's on and he's clicking on all cylinders. Because in his event win, you could tell that he knew he was going to win and he had something in his back pocket that nobody had in terms of approach and strategy and how he was going to manage that event. And it's like that's what gave him his nickname. That's what made him such an interesting athlete. And provided intrigue even amongst other athletes that are his peers, right? Because they're like, how did you do that? What way did you see, there's those, you go to all the different mind types and how people problem solve. And his is just one of the different types in terms of that. And it was cool to see him get into that duel with Guy and Guy kind of give it to him a little bit when it's just them two on the floor. And in our post game interview with him on our social, he was like, "I know it's messed up. I know you're supposed to be nice to old people, but still," and like was like joking with them, which is hilarious because that stems from them being on Team World together at Wodapalooza, where everybody was kind of messing around, and I think Guy got to get involved in some of the trash talk that was going on there with some of the older guys. And then he comes right back and wins the next event. It could have been back to back, and gets that moment with the interview on the sideline interview, and you felt the whole place pulling for him, and that felt like a proper swan song for him. But even still, to go out on top, you hear some people talking about like, oh, the physical, the mental, the spiritual, the other external factors that play when it comes to like the grind that this sport has. And if any of those aren't 100% yes, then all of it's a no.
Yeah.
You hear that sometimes with like athletes walking away, and you're like, huh, how is that? You still have so much talent and ability. And it's like, nope. Like if one of those cups isn't full, then I know I'm not going to be at my best personally. And that means I can't do it. And I also think it adds a little bit of legitimacy to him focusing on the PFAA.
Yeah.
It's like this guy clearly has more to give to the sport on the athlete side, but he's choosing to go to this other way to help the sport. And that's just more powerful that way.
Yeah. And I think too, there's something to be said for going out on top. And he is like leaving it, like you said, there's clear that there's more in the tank here. And this is how, when we think about Brent Fikowski's career, and I will use a different sport and a different athlete, but like what Aaron Rodgers is going through right now with the Jets, you're like, man, maybe you should have just hung it up when you left the Packers.
Yeah.
Because this is not helping.
That's
you don't want to be the last guy at the party, and Brent is clearly leaving like at the right time.
Which like John Elway, right? Back-to-back Super Bowls.
Yeah, get out.
I'm out.
You're done. You have nothing more you need to prove. But he will be missed. But I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what he can accomplish. But overall, it was a great competition. Like it was unfortunate that you had the two injuries during the duel. But I will give like the fact that they changed that. They're like, nope, we're changing this right now to prevent this from happening. Injuries are part of it. That stuff happens. Like I don't think. It was funny because I was talking to Alexis Detroit, who is Carolyn Prevost, partner. And Carolyn tested this, and Alexis was saying that when Carolyn tested it, because of the height of it and because of her height, she wasn't able to rebound like that. And it was and even talking to Pat Sherwood, who the programming head on that guy, he was like, he's like, this doesn't raise a red flag when I see so it's only 5. But yeah, people. So I don't think that this was like it was unfortunate, and I give them credit for saying right away, okay, you can't do it mid heat. Obviously, because now I see the times are going to be. But when they got through that they said, nope, we're changing this right now. We're doing burpees, and that was it.
Yeah, for sure. And it was the right call. And I saw some people being like, well, why did they figure this out in the first place? And I think that is a very clear like misunderstanding of how dynamic the sport is in terms of the variables that go into it, whether it's testing, whether it's programming, and we've seen this before, that athletes always exceed expectations on the competition floor when you add intensity and adrenaline and environment. And that also lends itself to finding new ways to problem solve, sometimes on the fly, that 10s, 20s, sometimes even hundreds of athletes hadn't figured out before.
Yeah.
Where, and sometimes like all it takes is one, right? Like a lot of people, most of those athletes didn't think to rebound those. And then you see Danielle could. Yeah. And you see Danielle Brandon doing it, and the way it was gliding over those, and then suddenly everyone goes, oh, okay, maybe I should try it. And like you said, if the athlete's testing, that thought process, that discovery process didn't go through their mind because they're not actually competing and they're not fighting in the same way that those other people are at the arena. It's easy for things like that to go unnoticed. I won't even say for them to miss it, because like you don't even know what you're missing at that point. You're trying to turn over every stone, and it's not like anyone has ever done burpees over a hay bale like that before, like the big bale like that. So you run the processes. Rogue and their team have done this countless times and tried to do this, and sometimes that stuff happens. And more importantly, when it did, they made the right call in course correcting.
I think that was the most important thing. But yeah, it was unfortunate for Henrik and Gabby, but good on Rogue for saying, okay, let's fix this right now. I got to give a shout out too to the Strongman and Strongwoman competitors, Mitch Hooper and Inez Carrasquillo for winning like that. Those were fun to watch. So many great moments in that competition as well. And I hope some CrossFitters watch that and are now a fan. I hope that some Strongman fans watch some CrossFit stuff and they're a fan, because behind the scenes it's really cool when you talk to Laws and you talk to, Dr. Bill Crawford, people who are really, big into the Strongman thing, Jerry Pritchett. They all start talking a little bit about the CrossFit athletes and asking some questions, and you can tell they're kind of getting interested in it. And it's just been fun to sort of, I've become a fan of Strongman, and to watch them now become a fan of the CrossFit stuff, or at least be aware of it and start to ask questions has been pretty cool. So I think overall it was a fantastic event. And like I said, I wanted to get away from it for a little bit to see if I still felt the same way about it, but it was probably one of the best events I've been a part of ever. And it was just, I think that it's only going to get better. I can't wait to see what they add. I hope they do it there next year. I think they are. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I don't know how they.
Please.
I don't know how they could. Because I met some, and I forget their names. God, I wish I could remember. They're all super nice. We met some people at the hotel. Like, that was really the only socialization I had. I went from literally the airport to the hotel, venue, hotel, airport, out. Like, I didn't see anything. But there were some fans that I got to talk to, and some were like, "Oh yeah, come out next year. We'll go play St. Andrews." I was like, "Okay, listen. First of all, I don't golf well, but I will 100% do that. Like, I'll put on the knickers and the funny hat, and I'll go full all in and just hack my way through that course." But the fans were super nice and welcoming. The environment was fantastic. So yeah, I think Europe, it just proves that Europe needs more big events, because the juice is still there with the crowds. Not that it's not here in the United States, but people were asking about that. And it's just like, there's so many options here in the US. You can do 2 Whatapaluzzas. You can do, you used to be able to do Rogue. You can do the games. You can do 2 semifinals, all that. So there's just a lot of options. Whereas there's not like this.
And those high level competitions have been around for longer here.
For sure.
Even going back to like what we said before in our preview, I believe, with like the ECC, the OC Throwdown, like all the old, like the Granite Games, like all the big events that used to be more prominent, like it's just been around a lot longer. So you have this kind of blasé attitude to that type of competition, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else you want to add about Rogue?
I think Mitch Hooper calling his shot about how the deadlift will play out, and subsequently from there on out, to me was like, oh yeah, he's going to win it just from the first get-go. Thor went out, lifted 1,010 pounds on the deadlift, and it was insane. Nuts. And he pulled it like it was.
It was like watching you do 300.
It's a warm-up set on the way up, but Mitch was like, I'm just going to go hit 975 high nines, get second place, minimize the damage to Thor, and go out and smash a bunch of the remaining events. And he did.
Yeah.
And he was far and away the best athlete on the floor for the Strongman.
Okay. So yeah, awesome event. I'll probably go back and watch some of the coverage. I haven't. But before we get to our PRs and no reps, we actually do have some community support. I had someone reach out to me from CrossFit Endemic, and he did he give me his name? I don't think he did. But he said that he and his wife own CrossFit Endemic just outside of Fort Carson Army Post. He's also a realtor. Currently represent a client who is a prior service Green Beret and has fallen ill with a rare autoimmune disease called spondyloarthritis. Essentially, the disease is an advanced form of arthritis that causes widespread joint damage and has forced my client to an early retirement from the military. He's in need of several more joint replacement surgeries, had his right wrist and hip replacements completed due to his disease. He currently lives at a KOA in an RV with his wife and 4 kids until we can get him settled into a house. His future surgeries are on hold. The Special Forces Foundation has set up a foundation for him to help raise funds for a down payment on a home that will fit his needs and that we can have retrofitted with the necessary handicap accessible modifications. So the link, and I'll throw this up on the screen, is at specialforcesfoundation.org/SGMR-Seidel, which is, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, SEIDL. So let me so if you happen to be watching this, you can see it. There it is. So you go to the site, Hero Sacrifice deserves our support, and you can donate button, and then you can see his Sergeant Major Brian Seidel and his family. You can see them, great looking family. And just something that I wanted to get out there. If you guys can help, this seems to be a really great cause. Again, it's specialforcesfoundation.org/SGMR-Seidel, which is SEIDL. All right. So check out the website, or you can even go to, if you're on Instagram, you can check out CrossFit Endemic, and I'm sure they'll have a link there. But yeah, just want to get that out because that's a good cause. And if any of you guys have anything out there that you want help with, you want to get the word out on, please share the details with us via our personal Instagrams, our Talking Elite Fitness Instagram account. Make sure you give us as many details as possible because we always want to send people to the right place to make sure that people are getting the help that they need. Okay. PRs and no reps. Start with a no rep.
I'm going to no rep swaddles without zippers.
Oh, you don't do it the old fashioned way where you fold it. What is it? You make the triangle. There's one
Make the triangle on the top. One side, pin the arm down. Tuck it underneath.
That's right. Yeah.
Up to get the feet crossed.
It's been a while.
Then you do a Mesoamerican rain dance.
Yeah. You just hope it holds. Yep.
we broke open one of the ones with the zippers that we have. And I just put him in it.
Yeah.
Zipped it up, and he was just like,
I'm good to go, man.
I was like, what the hell?
Just wait till someone gives you like button-up pajamas at like 3 a.m. Oh, those are the worst. They should just be illegal. Like, people who do that hate you. It's just not fun.
I don't want to use fine motor skills at 2 a.m.
Yeah, no, exactly. Right after I've changed a diaper and I probably got some of it on me and now I need it. No, you don't need that. Ain't nobody got time for that. I don't think I have a no rep. I got a couple PRs. I'm going to PR smart people. I saw this article the other day so the Voyager probe is like 15. It was launched in 1977. All right. It is 15 billion miles away from us. And these brainiacs at NASA are still finding ways to fix it. Like through radio signals and turning different transmitters on. It's unbelievable. I mean, the fact that there are people this smart that can figure that out is pretty incredible to me. So smart people. That's one of my PRs.
That's insane.
Yeah. That's
one of those things that I don't think people realize how absurd that is.
No, I'm like, it's 15 bit. Like if something's across the room, for crying out loud, I'm like, ooh, that's going to take a while. But this is 15 billion miles away and they're still fixing the damn thing. God. And it's nearly 50 years old. It's crazy. So I just had to give a shout out to smart people. You're underappreciated, but thank you for what you do. You got a PR?
I'm just going to PR the hospital staff.
Yeah.
The nurses there that were fantastic. And then our support staff at home. Our family has been crucial to this. And then PR my wife, most importantly.
Oh, yeah. I'm glad. I hope she's getting a little rest.
100%.
Good job, Tiff.
You know, it's funny. You hear that like people without kids, right? They're like, oh, do you think like if guys had to give birth, you'd be able to do it? And people are like, oh, yeah. I could have walked out of the room and been like, nope.
Yeah. What was it like?
No.
I remember Robin, was it? No. It was a comedian. So described, I think it was Carol Burnett, the old comedian said, giving birth is like taking your bottom lip and pulling it over your head. So it's okay. Yeah, I want no part of that. No, it's you realize that women are infinitely tougher than, like, just so much tougher than men when it comes to that stuff. It's like, yep, no, I'm going to tap out on that. Thank you very much. Our species would die off if it were up to men to like be the child bearer. I'm sorry, that's the fact.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. No, I got to PR you for being a dad, man. Congratulations. Welcome to it. You're going to be awesome. I cannot wait to meet Miles. You're going to have so much fun. It is going to be the toughest, most challenging thing you do, but it will be the most rewarding and most fun that you're going to have. And every day, and I think I said this to Mars and Heber one time, because I remember they came and visited. This is shortly after Max got born, and we were talking to him. And I think that, CrossFitters are uniquely positioned to be very good parents, because we are used to, on a daily basis, going and getting our, teeth kicked in, but having one thing go right that makes it all worth it. And that's like the early days of being a parent. Like, you're just getting your teeth kicked in, but something happens where he'll smile at you, or he'll say something, or he'll, and then you're like, oh, no, everything's fine. I can't wait to come back tomorrow. So that's
spot on. Holy cow.
So, all right. That is going to do it for today. Thanks to our sponsors, Box Basics. Head to shopboxbasics.com. Remember, guys, they're going to have some awesome Black Friday deals coming up. Like, if you're looking for get something for the CrossFitter in your life, shop Box Basics. We'll have you covered. Also, Thirdzy.com/TEF. You're going to save 20%. That stuff is, like I said, I PR'd my sleep on a plane. I don't sleep on planes. I slept 4 hours. All right. That's epic. That's like me. That's like me running like a sub 7 mile, on no warm up, and not uphill. Like, that's kind of what that would be the equivalent if I had to liken that to a physical challenge. All right. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for listening. Have a great weekend. Sorry we're late, but obviously Tommy had a big life event that we had to, work around. Tommy had to become a dad. So, threw a wrench in the schedule. Back next week with a lot more. We'll have more news, I think, next week. So, meantime, take care of each other. Be better, and we will talk to you guys next time.
Kiss at the start of a first date. If it's good, it's good. I don't want to wait. When the feeling's right, I'm taking everything. Don't want to start off slow just to see how